Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us as we're continuing to celebrate Women's History Month. We have today a phenomenal panel of veteran and active duty personnel, all being women. So shout out, hooray to you all for joining us. I'm excited to get this conversation going. I am Von Griggs, host of this particular panel, and two panels left in this month. We'll be meeting consecutive Sundays at 3 p.m. Central Time. And I'm also the president of Joy Restored Outreach, all things female veterans, where we provide resources and housing for the unhoused female veteran, exclusively those with children. So I'm excited to be your host. I'm excited to get to know these ladies and share them with the rest of the world on today. So starting with Miss Linda Ford. Miss Linda, who is an Army WAC, going to allow her to introduce herself, and then we're going to go in order. When Miss Linda's done, we'll go right over to Rose McFadden, who is also Army personnel and the recipient of a Purple Heart Medal. Oh my, just to say that gives me chills. Woo! So she's going to share how she was awarded that medal. Then we have Mitchelene Bigman, who I've gotten to know somewhat. Mitchelene is a co-author with me on our first volume of Her War II, The Untold Stories of Female Veteran Family Members and Spouses of Veterans. And then we have none other than Miss Althea. Oh, she vet said, yay, yay. And then on over to Chelsie and then EB'ony. All right, ladies, go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Linda Ford, and I just want to thank Ms. Vaughn and all the ladies that are present here today that was in one branch of the service. You know, we all are one. We all are members of the armed force. So, yes. But my journey started in 1973 when I was a sophomore in college. And I pretty much decided to end my college career because I wasn't going so well, you know. So the first thing that occurred to me was to join the military. So I joined the military in 1973. At that time, I didn't know it was a special group of ladies that we was called WACS, Women's in the Armed Corps Service, but didn't realize that our title would be changed and we would become soldiers, just as the other young ladies that's on the platform today. So I was a WAC, and we didn't have to uh, pretty much do so much of the physical fitness that you young ladies did, because it was geared towards women's in the military. So they was taking care of our strength. And back in 1973, they only had one place for the Army to serve, and that was Fort McClellan, Alabama. And there, it was not only was it a WAC facility, it was also for MPs and as well as a chemical warehouse. But it was a place where, you know, all the female soldiers at that during that era would attend, was Fort McClellan, Alabama. And I have to say that I personally enjoyed my career during that time. I traveled extensively, you know, in the parts of the different parts of the world and in the United States, but mostly in Germany, France, Switzerland, you know, places that I've never even imagined myself being if it wasn't for the military. It was a time where, you know, only one place that I ever was allowed to go was Louisiana. That's my mother and father home state. And I was born and raised in Texas. So I kind of, you know, didn't know no other place to serve, to go, until I went in the military. And the military offer you, and some of the ladies could attest to this, they offer you a dream sheet and ask you where you want to go. And of course, me as um, a young soldier, I always wanted to go to California, and I always wanted to go to Germany. Well, I filled out my dream sheet and I said I wanted to go to California and Germany. And lo and behold, I got to go to both places for my basis, for my AIT training. I went to Fort Ord, California. And then for my permanent duty station, I ended up in Heidelberg, Germany. So I had a opportunity to visit places that I had a desire in my heart as a young child, learning about the gold rush in California and learning about the Oktoberfest in Germany, you know, and the streets were paved with bricks. And all this is true. They do have Oktoberfest and they do have the streets paved with bricks. So, you know, it seemed so far-fetched, but it became a reality to me because I actually saw it with my own eyes. And then, of course, Fort Ord, California, never been to California, but that's a beautiful place. If you ever desire to go, the Fort Ord is where it's not there anymore, but, you know, Seaside is there, you know. But I say that I was during the Vietnam era. The only thing that I didn't think that we got appreciated, the women that served during that time was appreciated as being women's in the military, because we was kind of just brushed aside like the soldiers. Well, we were soldiers, but just like the men that returned from Vietnam, they was not recognized as, you know, veterans that serve in the military, because that was like, I guess, the different time, the era that we was in, the Vietnam area. But it's a military is for me personally, it was a great place for me mentally at the time when I went in. I experienced a lot of, I know you hear some horror stories, but there's some good stories too, you know. So I'm going to give you a few of the good stories where I experienced, you know, I have more pros than I have cons. Let me say that. So that's in anything in life, you know. You just have to the bad. You have to as well take the bad with the good, you know. So you have to be able to distinguish. You know, it depends on how it affects you as an individual. But for me, it was one of the best place and the highlight, because I still, at this day, when people ask me, out of my 4 years of college, out of my career with the government, that was a total of 34 and a half years, I always say the military was the most exciting and adventurous place for me. So I just wanted to share my experience. And then if you got any questions later, you know, I'm here feel free to ask. Thank you. I'm turning it over back to you, Ms. Vaughn.
Thank you, Miss Linda. And as you say, you took the good with the bad. You got those assignments that you absolutely wanted. So
yes,
God gave you some pleasure and desires of your heart
yes,
among some of the hardships. And so I can definitely relate to that. I've shared my story before, but today is not about me. It's all about you all. And because I'm aware that all of us here that are present, we stood on your shoulders, the women that served on your era, where there wasn't the recognition. And I want to publicly say thank you for being that inroad when we didn't even know. We didn't really know the trails that you all were blazing, because you were a test. You all were really a test to see if the armed forces, primarily the Army, was going to follow suit and allow women to enlist and serve equally. So I'm glad to have met you. I'm glad that you had the tenacity, the courage as a sophomore in college, not knowing what in the world you were getting into, but you just knew what you were into. There had to be something else. And again, I celebrate our time in history in the military equally as I celebrate Black History Month, because there are so many that suffered so that we could have the opportunity to be honored and to be celebrated. So again, Miss Linda, thank you for being present. Thank you for sharing with us and giving us those words of encouragement, taking the good with the bad. Over to you, Mitchelene.
Hello, everybody. I am truly honored to be part of this great panel with these extraordinary women. My name is Mitchelene Bigman. I am from the Apsalogan Nation. And like Linda, I joined the military because my college, I wasn't disciplined as well. So it was more like a backup plan. So I joined the military just to get my GI Bill and return back to school to finish my degree, which I ended up making it a career. The military is a career. Like I say, there's a lot of pros and cons. I'm proud to have served. It was rough sometimes. I chose my MOS as a diesel mechanic. So a lot of times I was in all male battalions. And then my last name, Bigman, they thought I was a guy. So there was a lot of struggle trying to prove myself as a soldier and prove myself as prove my worth, not only as a soldier, but as a leader. I am the president and founder of Native American Women Warriors, where we, our organization is to bring recognition to all our women veterans that have served in any era, especially of Native descent. And we're also a 501c3 to ensure that they get the help that is needed, whether it's in education, employment, and even health-wise. So again, my service was challenging because at the time that I had served, the motto was "Be all that you can be." So that's what I was trying to do, and again, trying to overcome a lot of stereotypes. Being Native American, we don't fall under mainstream America. We're not white, Black, Hispanic, or Asian, and we're kind of forgotten. So this is where my voice came about while I was in the military. You know, Native Americans, we still exist. We're very successful, and I've had to remind several people World War II that Native Americans was a big impact on our winning World War II, and it was through our languages. I attended a residential school or boarding school when I was young, and we were not allowed to speak our language. We were not allowed to portray ourselves. They were trying to assimilate us into the white culture. So the Army did open up a lot of doors for me in regards to where I could be a voice and that strong leadership. So I am a combat veteran. I volunteered twice for Iraqi freedom. I did come out with a combat action badge because I was in a rocket attack. But more than anything, I'm just glad that I'm here to help and serve alongside with all my sisters in arms. Thank you. Back at you, Vaughn.
Bless you, bless you, bless you for the work that you're doing and how you're continuing to be a voice, which sends us over to Rose McFadden, also Native American and with the NAWW. But there's something even more special about this young lady right here, because Rose, I want to say to you, you are the first, as I'm looking in this camera, your beautiful self, you are the very first female Purple Heart recipient that I've met. So I am extremely honored because I know you didn't get that badge just because, as Mitch said, volunteering to go to Iraqi freedom. It cost you much. So share with us today a little bit about your time in the U.S. Army.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on here. I am very honored to be among all our beautiful ladies here, old, young, longtime service, career women in the military. I never had that growing up. I grew up on the Navajo reservation. I'm a full Navajo Native American girl. All of my grandfathers were in the military. So a lot of them did have Purple Hearts. A lot of them had major injuries just coming home. A lot of mental health injuries, PTSD. I have two grandfathers that were a part of the Navajo Code Talkers, which were World War II. And to be honest, you know, for our family growing up, we saw all the men in the family go out into other countries and serve. And a lot of our grandfathers that we weren't able to meet, that didn't come home, but we only speak of, we were able to understand that as Native American people from the Navajo tribe, we never stopped fighting to defend our homeland, our families, and our relatives. That we say our relatives because there's always another tribe next door, or there was all the different settlers that came into the United States. And to be honest, all of our family, we are injured, we have always fought, we always persevere. There's a lot of resilience in our tribes. And being a part of Native American women warriors, a lot of the women, they do have the same story as well, as they were brought up in the culture of always being warriors. And we do feel like it is something that is instilled in our mind, our hearts, our spirit, the way that we carry ourselves. And for me, I was in the military not for a very long time. When I was finishing basic training, I thought, I was going to travel. I had my list like Linda, like I want to go to Germany. I want to go be in California. I want to go to Hawaii. I want to do a lot of these go to different places. I thought this was going to be a traveling career for me, but it wasn't. Actually, 9/11 happened when I was at AIT. So I was about 6 weeks of finishing up AIT, and I remember going down to the Bay, and we were watching it on TV. Just the Twin Towers had already fell, and you had this array of people just running back and forth. They were reporting it on different news channels. We sat down, and I remember one of our drill instructors, he said, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is what it means. When you guys pick to go to your duty station, doesn't matter where you go, you're going to be deployed right away. And for them, they said, you're going to go right into training, and you're going to have to train with the mentality of actually being there, because that is where you're going to go. And I do remember getting right to my duty station. I was in Washington State at Fort Lewis, and we went to the field right away. And we got flown out of the field. We didn't even finish our whole month exercise in the field. And 2 weeks in, we got flown out, and they were like, hey, you guys got to start packing, getting ready. My first deployment was a little short of a year in Uzbekistan on the border of Afghanistan. So we had a lot of people from our unit going back and forth. I was part of a logistics supply unit. So we were the central supply unit in Afghanistan area. And then I came home for a period of time. I wasn't injured during that time, but it wasn't fun. But we were there for a little bit less than a year, and I got reattached to a new unit, and we deployed to Iraq. So I was part of the logistic unit as well, where we were the central supply area for all of Iraq. So we worked with all the different branches. They came into this, the place where we were located was called Log Base Sites, and it was located right outside the Iraqi airport. So we were basically, I don't remember the exact distance we were, but we were basically in downtown Baghdad. So there's an Iraqi international airport. We were outside the entire safe zone, halfway between there and downtown Baghdad. And I can say my whole time there might be maybe a few days that went by we weren't attacked. There might have been a few days where we weren't shot at, attacked. We had a lot of mortars hit around our base. They never really got us inside the compound, but it was every day. And I don't know if anyone else was deployed out there, or if anybody was listening right now to what I'm talking about, but it was very normal to be attacked. I mean, I feel like it sounds weird saying that, but it was very normal knowing the alarms going off that we were being attacked. And it actually was annoying sometimes because we had to stop working everything we're doing and go to the bunker and wait it out and make sure everybody was fine. But there was one in particular night. I was out there for a little bit less than a year also. And they finally got us. They finally hit the mortars right directly inside the compound. And a lot of individuals died and a lot of individuals got injured. So a lot of us had shrapnel, you know, inside our bodies, all of the things. It was a lot of, it was mortars. It was a big mortar attack that happened. So some of our friends that didn't get to make it home, the rest of us, we have endured, I would say we endured a lot of different injuries. My injuries were a traumatic brain injury. I have a cervical spine injury. A lot of it affected me for a good period of time right after there. Like Linda, I wanted to go to Germany. You know, I did get to Germany, but I only went to the hospital. And I was there for a period of time. And I did want to go, you know, to like, I wanted to be in Washington, D.C. and Maryland and some of those things, you know, coming from the reservation, there's these big places you want to go. I did make it there, you guys. I made it there, but I only made it to the hospital. So I was there doing a lot of therapy. I spent a good amount of time getting therapy and things like that after being injured. But I would say those are the biggest injuries, was a brain injury and a cervical spine injury. And, you know, like anyone else who has gotten injured, no injury is great. But when we get injured serving our country, it's something that we knew that would have been a possibility, and it doesn't feel good in the moment. But when we find out that some of our friends died and they didn't get to come home, you know, it does something for us that it isn't that bad. You know, we did get to come home. I did get to see my family, my parents, some of my friends. And I have spent a good amount of time in my life up until this point. I am going to be 40 years old. It's crazy to say that, but I got injured about 15 years ago, and life was certainly not easy up until this point. I really didn't think I would ever get married. I think on top of the injuries and knowing that your damage, like your mind, your spirit, your body, a lot of those things happen with anybody that gets injured in the military. It does affect your worth. And I think that is being human. You know, that is just being human. It's nothing to say about what we're not able to do or what we're not capable to do anymore moving forward. But I've spent a good portion of my life serving veterans, particularly disabled. So I always work really good with disabled veterans, not just to share my story or anything like that with them, but to walk with them in their injury, because I knew what I needed. I really needed someone like me to be willing to be genuine enough to walk with you through the hospital visits and things like that. And to this day, some of my best friends that I have to date are the ones that I met in the traumatic brain injury unit, which was so crazy, but they are absolutely some of my best friends right now. My friends that didn't make it home, their families have become some of the closest people that I have been, you know, just honored to be a part of their family. And, you know, even right now, working with the Native American Women Warriors, we're here to remind the other women to keep going, that even after injury or after your service, if you suffered any kind of PTSD, sexual trauma, any kind of issues during your service, we're able to hold your hand, pick you back up, and lock arms with you and remind you that you still have a purpose after your service. And, you know, God brought me home for a reason, and I met Mitchelene, and, you know, I've been able to come alongside her in the organization and partner with them with all the great things that they were already doing, and just continue continue the work. You know, when we get home after deployment and after service, our mission continues wherever God plants us.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're continuing to serve. And I'm sitting here fighting back chills and tears because you're, whoo, amazing. And I know that you gave honor and recognition to those that didn't make it back. And sometimes I don't, this is Vaughn, I'm only speaking for Vaughn, don't appreciate hearing thank you for your service, because I know that oftentimes it went beyond the service. It was the contributions and the sacrifices. And so, you know, and I don't feel that way all the time, but there are occasions where I'll hear that and I'll think you can say, someone can say, thank you for your service, but not really know the backdrop. You gave us such a beautiful backdrop. And I appreciate that. Kudos for what you're doing. And like you, I am grateful that God brought you back home and you're using that pain and suffering for such a great purpose, because you identified what you did not have and you didn't let it in there. I appreciate that you're continuing to serve and that you came along on this panel today to share your amazing story with us. Now I know why I shifted when I did. It always happens that way, because this is my first time speaking with you. I read a little bit of your bio, but your bio didn't give justice to what you served us with right now in your live story. And it's a very appropriate segue over to Althea Williams, who I have had the opportunity to meet and break bread together with. And it's really amazing. Just I'm really fighting back the emotions, because there's so much that we deserve recognition and honor for. And what I know is that we can't wait for anyone else to do it. We have to do it for ourselves. We have to be the sheroes that don't hide behind what we gave. And that can be painful sometimes. I don't dismiss it. Revisiting some of the occasions, the situations, the circumstances, it can be painful. However, when we have the opportunity, I believe that helps us heal, which this whole ceremony of Women's History Month, the title from the National Women History Project is Women Providing Healing and Promoting Hope. Have the opportunity in doing today, providing healing and promoting hope. So just as you talked about being in Germany at the hospital, I visited Landstuhl, Germany, investigating incidents. That was my job on safety. So I literally saw those long hallways and the wooden banners when you spoke of the hospitals in Germany. I could sense the smell of the many trips that I made there to investigate and interview our injured and our casualties. So shout out to each and every one of you. Over to you, Althea.
Oh my goodness, look, I haven't even started. I'm getting a little teary-eyed because I was actually at Landstuhl, but I'll get to that. But I just want to thank you so much, Vaughn, for this space, allowing us all to connect, to share our stories and the stories I've heard so far. Thank you so much, ladies, for your service. As Vaughn said, my name is Althea Williams, and I started a group, She Vets It. But before I get into that, I'm from California, and I always say I'm not the normal veteran. I joined at 39, and I had already had like 20 plus years in the civilian sector. I joined with 5 children. You know, I was married, and everyone was like, are you crazy? You joining in the military now? And I used to run a chamber of commerce. I've worked at the Small Business Development Center. And I was like, but for some reason, when I was younger, when I was in high school, I always wanted to join the military because I come from a strong military background. All my uncles was in the military. My great-great-grandfather, believe it or not, was part of the militia, you know, the early years. And my great-great-grandmother was Cherokee Indian. So you got to read up on that part. But, and also one of my great uncles that's related to him is named after one of the military bases. So, so it's in my DNA to serve. And I always, like I said, I always wanted to serve, but something kept coming up out of high school. So I just kept going, went ahead and went to college, had children, kept going. And then I was about to graduate and I was gonna go to OCS. And somehow I couldn't go because I got a C in my statistics. So I couldn't go in as an officer because I had to have a B and above. So someone said, well, you're gonna have to wait a year or you can join now. And someone said, no, don't, get that degree and then go in. Well, years later, I went ahead and got the degree, and then the recession happened. So years later, the recession happened and I ended up joining because I was laid off and I moved my whole family to Texas, and then the recession happened. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But I prayed about it. Believe it or not, I prayed about it, went to church. I'm like, okay, Lord, give me a confirmation. Should I sign on Monday, whatever? This day, the pastor had a Navy SEAL speaker, the teleprompter, everything on the stage was military. Everything was military. I'm like, okay, I got it. So long story short, I go ahead and join in. Then I end up becoming a holdover in AIT. So I was away from my family almost a year. I was supposed to be home. I think I was supposed to be home 8 weeks or something like that. And it was almost a year. I experienced, a battle buddy in AIT that drowned over Memorial Weekend. I ended up having to do, because I was an older veteran, older soldier turning 39, they wanted me to help with certain things. So it just became one thing. And after that, I reunited with my family. Then from there, 6 months later, I was off to Afghanistan for 9 months and, lost some battle buddies there, came back, had, some PTSD. And then I got orders to go to Germany. So I was in Ansbach. So I was in Ansbach for 3 years. And what happened in Ansbach, I ended up getting in a head-on collision. And so that's where I ended up getting a traumatic brain injury. Well, I didn't know I had it right away because my doctor was like, oh, it's PTSD. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I said, this is feeling kind of different. And the thing about PTSD that I can relate with Rose, Rose is so beautiful. And you look at Rose, you never think that anything is, she's experienced anything, because sometimes, God has a way of making us not look like what we've been through. And so with me, when people see me, they think I have it all together. Like, oh, nothing wrong with her. But they don't know the things that you go through behind the scenes. Your family knows those different things and challenges. And sometimes we can make things look a lot better than what they actually are. So when I ended up finding out I had the traumatic brain injury, I went ahead and went to DC. They sent me over to WTU in DC area. So I stayed there for 2 years, went through brain therapy. And from there, it was really, I would say, probably one of the darkest moments for me because, I joined the military at 39. God confirmed this is what I was supposed to do. And then now I couldn't remember people, people that I should know, like, hey, hi out there, how are you? And I'm like, okay, how do I know her? And then so it got to a point where it became a joke. I was just going to be happy every time someone greeted me. I was just going to, hey, how are you? How's the kids? Oh, I don't have any children. Oh, I mean, your siblings' kids, So it was like, because it used to make me very tearful. Like in the beginning, I had to learn to find out how to be the new person that I am now, because I think, Rose, and those that experience injuries or traumatic injuries, there's a mourning process you go through with the old, accepting the new person versus the old self, what you used to be versus who you are now. And I struggle with that. And it had me really in a dark place until I watched this movie called The Shack. And it was this gentleman, I'm not going to go into the story, but he just asked God why certain things happen. And I was wondering, Lord, why some people, my battle buddies, didn't come back. And then I can't remember things. I came in with my MBA. I had goals of getting out and get my PhD and do this. And then my whole life just changed in one accident. And so it just let me know how fragile life is, and don't take things for granted, because your life could be like this one day and it'd be something different the next. But I say that to say, when I was in that dark space, God put in my heart to start a group and start a women's veterans group. And that's where I started putting information online that was helpful, resources for veterans, because it was a way for me. It's kind of like what Rose said. I needed someone like me, that I needed what I needed, I wanted to give to someone else. I knew there was resources out there that other veterans didn't know about. And I was really thinking about the younger veterans, because I said, I was 39. I was really, I was pretty set in who I was, confident in who I knew. I knew who my creator was. I knew how to, whatever. But I was thinking the younger veterans who had not yet formed their identity to know who they are. And then also the resources that are out there, because when you're on base and you're still connected to the military, those resources are right there. But when you get out the uniform, you got to seek them out. So that's why I use my space, She Vets It, as a space of bringing in like organizations that do different things to make sure, so other veterans know, hey, there's organizations like Vaughn, which Rose and Mitchelene, all that you are doing. That's what I wanted to make sure that I was able to do. And so, like I said, for me, it just kind of kept growing into something. And so it was something that I needed to help myself. And over the few years that I've been doing She Vets It, it has helped me in my mental health, because I have to be accountable to take care of myself, because there's people that are counting on me to be available to be there for them. So it's like an accountability thing for me. So that's why I end up doing what I'm doing. And every day I still have different challenges, that people don't necessarily know about, but it makes it easier when you have a community of women like Vaughn, Linda, you all that are here, that you can come on and share your, maybe your things that you may have going on, and you have each other. And community, and what I'm finding is community sometimes is the best healing than if you are going to your own counselor, because you have people that understand each other. And like I said, I've learned so much from the community of women veterans, and so that's why I do what I do. But I don't want to keep going. But thank you so much, Vaughn, for just having this space and allow me to meet all these wonderful women here.
You are more than welcome. I am inspired. I'm getting hope. Oh, wow. Whew. It always does me well. And as you said, having that sisterhood, when we know that we've not suffered alone, and we can share, or then sometimes just have that space of someone listening, that it's okay if I'm feeling this way because of what I have experienced, and know that they can understand it. They may not fix it, and we don't always need them fixing it, but to have that sisterhood that you can call up or text, say, the day has been rough, it's been rough, and to have that. So I appreciate what you're doing with She Vets It. I know you said when you got out, you missed that sisterhood, you missed that camaraderie, trying to migrate back into the civilian world, as well as you were healing through that traumatic injury, and saw that there was such a disconnect. Really appreciate you, Althea. Can't wait to hug your neck again real soon. Those of us in the state of Texas, we're going to have to do a meet and greet up. We're going to have to greet up, right?
Definitely.
All right, that takes us over to Miss Chelsie.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for
Hello.
having me. I served in the National Guard for 8 years, and it was something I remember. I was in 6th grade, and I was cleaning my closet. My mom's like, "Get upstairs, clean your room." And on the radio, because I'm a music buff, I always had it on, was this commercial about, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and I'm like, that doesn't even add up. 2 weekends times 12 months. That's 24 days. That's more than 2 weeks. But from then on, I was like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to join and be a career soldier. I wanted to be a JAG officer. I just had all these super high hopes. So I joined when I was 17. Luckily, well, my dad didn't want me to join, but my mom had full custody. So she was able to sign off on me joining at 17. Otherwise, I would have had to wait. And I went to basic training after my senior year at Fort Jackson, and then straight to Aberdeen Proving Grounds for my MOS training, which was to be a light wheel vehicle mechanic. I wanted to be a rocket launcher. I can't even remember what the MOS was called, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in the rocket launchers, but the next best thing at that time that women were allowed to do was be in support. So I chose that support role in my hometown unit. The military was just changing to what they called the functional army. So the unit, my hometown unit that I joined, I got farmed out and kicked out of, and I got put in another unit. And then I really wanted to be in my hometown unit. I got put back there, and I was the first female in that unit, and it was not met with, like, people weren't excited about having a girl in the unit for multiple reasons. Now I can understand it more, but I was offended at first. I was like, well, why not? But I understand that I was walking into a snake pit. I didn't know that at the time. And my first AIT, I was sexually assaulted by 2 fellow females in front of the officer that transferred me into his unit. And I was this outgoing, like, gun-ho person. So I wanted to do PT on Sundays, but everyone was hungover. They weren't into that. It was not that kind of unit. And I was pretty disappointed. The next time my unit would get together, I was sexually assaulted by 2 men in my unit. And I blocked that out by working really hard. I dropped out of college that year. I decided not to pursue an ROTC career. It was that commanding officer that was over the ROTC at the college, and it just was not a safe spot. So I backed out. I ended up going back to school. I got my degree in 4 years, and I went on living life, and I had a lot of shame around my military service. I didn't ever talk about it. I would change into my uniform on the way to work, on the way to drill, and then out of it, just so no one saw me. And I didn't realize the shame piece that I was bearing. 5 years after, I kind of just spiraled out, and I had to get out of the military. I couldn't. Once I was in the South Dakota Guard for 7.5 years, and then I spent the last 6 months of my service in the Montana Guard. And it was like, once I was in Montana, away from that space, everything kind of poured out of me. I got to do some really neat things in the military, and I didn't deploy, and I had a lot of shame and resentment over that. But I understand now that my position has always been home defense, rear D. I know that my military career wasn't what I expected it to be, and I accept that. I take the good with the bad. I really got to sharpen a lot of the skills that were already inside of me. People that join the military kind of have a different skill set, leadership qualities, and that's why we get drawn to things like the military. And the military did enhance those. I got to be a part of the flooding that was happening in South Dakota in 2011, and was on a 6-week cruise to help the community, which is something that the National Guard is awesome about responding to. And I got to see the community come together and help each other. And that was a gift. My role now is my recovery. So I know that a lot of sisters experience military sexual trauma, and I don't believe that my service has ended just because I don't wear the uniform anymore. I wear a different uniform. I put on the armor of God every day, and my recovery is a testament to anybody else coming out of it that recovery is possible. Some of the supports that I've had outside of the VA, really, there are some amazing organizations that want to help veterans. Canine Care Montana, I have a service dog. She's going on 7. She's been places with me that I probably wouldn't have ventured back out to. The Veterans Yoga Project is another amazing resource that I've connected with. I've since gone on and got my 200-hour yoga teacher training, and I was just accepted into the Veterans Yoga Project Master Resiliency course. So I'm excited to be where I'm at in my recovery. A lot of it did come from that acceptance. I remember when I took my first job out of college, I got a credit card and they're like, do you want to put that disability insurance? It's like $1 a month. And I'm in my early 20s. I'm like, no, like, why wouldn't I be able to work? And then I found myself in that very situation just a few years later. And then I was like, oh, so humbling. Things didn't go as I planned, but I actually am at a place right now that I really love who I am. And it's taken me 33 years, I'm almost 33, to be in this place. So I'm grateful, and I just want to share that message and be that light for other people by the grace of God, that I still am here, because there was times that I didn't want to be. I have this tattooed on my finger. I remember reading about a lieutenant colonel. He wears one of the those silicone bands that people wear, like workout bands, and he puts it on his trigger finger for suicide awareness. And I was like, well, I'd never be able to take it off, right? So I have it tattooed on my finger, on my trigger finger, for suicide awareness, out of the darkness, because the war is not over. So to all my brothers and sisters coming home, I've been here, and I do the work so I can share the work and welcome y'all home. So thank you very much for having me here. I feel like the least of these, and I'm just so honored and grateful for what you did on behalf of yourselves, but for women as a whole, because now women are in combat, and wow. I have goosebumps all over just saying that. So thank you for being the pioneers, the leaders that you are, and having the strength, courage, and confidence to continue on and share your resiliency. God bless.
Powerful. Powerful. Woo. Talk about providing and promoting hope. Wow. Chelsie, I see so much in your future, dear. I'm grateful that you're here, and we're not celebrating after the band. Oh wow. Amazing, just amazing strength and tenacity. Thank you. I know this isn't something that you do often, but to have you on board today is very special. And I know it's going to touch the heart of someone that's going to listen after this replay. And for any of you, what you've gone through, it's not in vain. You're right, putting on that whole armor of God each day, you're still in the war. And you have become an overcomer and a survivor, and telling your story to help someone else along the way. Many of us didn't have that. I know I didn't. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have women that I could have gone to, because everybody seemed to be so tough, and it was get through it, or you shouldn't feel that way. And it was 25 years before I started letting myself really feel. So I understand when you even speak about the guilt of those experiences, right? Bless you. Bless you. Woo, this is so good. EB'ony is yet on active duty, soon to be released. That's what she's hoping for. So she is coming on board as an active duty Navy out of Corpus Christi. I had the opportunity of meeting this young lady through a conversation on Clubhouse, and then she did a drive-by at my home in Dallas, Texas, back in November. And that was so special because while she was visiting me, I was got a call from Miss Linda Ford that was needing assistance with her VA application. And it was just amazing. Now to sit here diagonal with both of you, I am having this warm, fuzzy moment because there's no way that I would have even thought this time of sharing would have come together with the two of you. So EB'ony, over to you, dear.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Ooh. Well, y'all got me over here going. Okay, so I'm a petty officer, first class electronics technician, surface warfare, air warfare, information dominance warfare, Griner, from Waco, Texas. Y'all hear me? Waco, Texas. I've been in, it'll be coming on 14 years. Like Ms. Vaughn said, we met through Clubhouse in the Veterans Room. I'm in the Navy, but my journey was not going to be Navy. Coming out of Waco, Texas, the branch there is the Army. So when I was in high school, we're in our 11th grade year, my friend, who happens to be, we have the same last name. So we grew up together and we bonded and said we were going to be sisters because we were trying to always figure out how in the heck do both of us got the same last name of Griner. 7th grade, we flat out fought because she had pictures of my daddy and I had pictures of my dad and we were trying to figure it out. Needless to say that my dad used to be married to her mama, but we, small town Waco, you didn't know. So we was like, you know what? It's easier to say we sisters than to go through this. So as we aged together, we were like, we're going to go in the Army together. So 11th grade year, I'm in automotive school because my dad, like I say, he was in the military, but he was out when I was thought about in 1982. I'm 40. So I was like, sure, we're going in the Army, no problem. But I was also in automotive. So my backup plan was my dad showed me how to work on cars. He had a Pinto. And when my mom and dad separated, I've been working on cars. I grew up as my mama's little boy. Anything that has a light switch, electronics, a paintbrush, I can do it. I can do it all. I call myself a janitor of all trades, but I was also known as the resource finder. So my homegirl sister, she was like, so if we go in, what you gonna do? And I said, girl, I gotta work with my hands. I cannot sit at a desk because I do not know how to sit at a desk. And so we laughed about it. We're coming up to the point that we're talking to the recruiters. We got to take the ASVAB. And she comes and she says, hey, I got something to tell you. I'm thinking, oh, we finna go early, prepare. She's like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, what? Girl, you playing? She's like, no, I'm pregnant. I said, so we can't go in the military. We can't battle buddy. And if I can't go in with you, Griner, this Griner ain't going, I'm gonna go to college because I got a scholarship anyway. And she said, all right, well, we'll see. And I said, we'll see. Babies is 9 to 10 months. We're not going nowhere. So she said, okay. So she's like, well, go off to college. So I got my scholarship. I went to automotive school at TSTC. I graduated, realized that this 125 was here to stay. I wasn't going to get no bigger. I doubled back and I started my biomedical equipment degree. Needless to say, me and her had lost a little touch. We run into each other and she's in uniform. And I was like, Griner, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I went into the Army. I said, without me? She said, well, you went off to college. And when I called you, you said, I'm in college. So I didn't say nothing else. So needless to say, she went out to college. She went out to the Army. And I was like, well, I'm in college. I'm going to finish this degree. I'm in biomedical equipment. And a lot of people, well, how do you go from automotive to fixing medical equipment? And I was like, tomato, it is the same. So in the back of my head, I was like, but I did want to go into the military. But 2000, 2001, I was like, oh, I ain't going to the Army. You sign up for that, you're going straight to Afghanistan. So how do I get around Afghanistan? So I went to the Air Force. And I was like, okay, I can do electronics. I can work on their helicopters, their planes, their whatever. So I went the first time and the feeling did not feel right when I went to the recruiter station. So I walked away from the door and I went back to still working a company. So I transferred on from Waco to Dallas and I was working at Doctor's Hospital and I was there and that same, you need to go to the military feeling came again. And I was like, what is going on? So I went back to the Air Force. I went to the recruiter stations, the Air Force. And when I walked in there, I just felt weird. And I said, but this is the branch. I'm not going to the Army and the Marines because now, you know, I'm getting up in age. I'm 24, 25. I don't run and push up and sit up. I'm not going to be calling cadence, even though I love calling cadence. I'm not doing that. So I didn't go. I got transferred to Lubbock, Texas. And I found myself in an Air Force recruiting station again, after working for about a year there. And I signed up, I took my ASVAB, and she said, we're gonna give you a desk job. And I said, well, I'm gonna leave because I'm not doing that because I know I don't do that. I transferred from there. I went to Austin, Texas, where I was working and fixing medical equipment. And I was 25, about to be 26, and it was like a hard, I was asleep. Something said, get your butt up and you go to that recruiting station and you sign up. You are running out of time. And I was like, but I got a great job. I make $100,000 a year. I'm traveling. I don't have no kids. I got a truck, a motorcycle, and a car. I'm a bad manager. I'm on Oprah. And someone's like, yeah, go to recruiting station. I'm not trying to hear that. So I went to the Air Force, took the ASVAB. We're walking out. I say, how fast can I leave? And she said, what's wrong? And I say, because I need to go now. I got to drive. Like you could send me out to boot camp tomorrow. So on purpose, I said, and I doodled on my test so that I could not get an administrative job when I took that section of the ASVAB. I was going to make sure this time that I did not get a desk job. I knew electronics left and right. We came out of it. She's like, oh, you scored a 74. You can have any job you want. Da, 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 da. And I said, okay, well, I want to do something electronics. But while I was sitting there, I started praying. And in my prayer, I say, Lord, I know that something keeps whispering to me to go to the military, but I don't think it's to fix equipment. What's going on? And something came back to me, say it's a time for transformation. I need you to go into the military service and infiltrate, and I need you to be my boots on ground soldier. I need you to show them that God is real. And I was like, well, what they got to do with the military? Because I ain't heard nobody talk about church. And the guy was like, who are you over here having a full-blown conversation with? I don't know if you're going to get to come in anybody branch talking to yourself. And I was like, you need to back up. It's something going on here. So he turns back around and she comes back and she say, well, Griner, unfortunately, we don't have any electronics jobs. You have to work a desk job. And I rolled my eyes and I was like, God, you just, what? Whoa, what's going on? So Renfro, I call him that, he's over here talking to a guy in the Navy about deployments and how they leave for 6 months and they come back and X, Y, and Z. And I say, hey, man, can you take my paperwork from her? Because I need that job. I don't care where I go. I just need an electronics job. I have 2 degrees. I'm a straight A student. I know how to work on anything. I just cannot sit at a desk, not long anyway. And so he said, okay. He said, well, hey, you haven't signed in. I'll take your paperwork. And she started fussing at me. And I said, hey, I know better. My daddy was in the Army. My uncles was in the Army. My great grandma was in the WAF. She was a WAF, a Women Auxiliary Air Force. And I just found that I also have another great grandmother that was a WAF, WAF, in the Army Reservoir. She might have been a WAC too. I'm gonna find that out. So Ms. Linda, you might know one of your buddies there. So he took my paper and she said, oh, you didn't make a 74, you made a 47. So I looked at Renfro, I said, Renfro, is that enough to get in? He said, oh yeah. He said, since you got 2 degrees, I can put you in as an officer. I said, oh no, I want to start from the bottom. He said, well, E3? I said, okay, that'll work. He said, electronics job, what you want to do? I say, anything, I don't care, because that's not what I'm going to be there to do. And he was like, all right, you want some bonus money? I said, as long as I ain't carrying an M16, you know, what do you got? So he say, electronics technician. I'll start you off as an E3. I'm gonna push button you to E4. All you gotta do is graduate boot camp. I'm gonna get you $20,000 for your degrees. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. You finna have to fight. I saw you over there talking to I don't know who, but whatever that conversation is, know that you're finna come in and you're gonna be mama, daddy, sister, brother, cousin, neighbor, pastor. You finna be it all because you're older. And then I listen to you all ladies' stories, and I'm like, wow, each one of y'all are a piece of me. I'm older. I'm the laundry PO when we get to boot camp because I guess I got the mama qualities. I don't have to do formations like everybody else. I had to learn cadence, so I love singing cadence. I've always kept a journal. And I started writing spoken word, and I would incorporate those when we would do cadence. And then I find myself, I get out of that, every dream sheet that I feel that I got, I went to, I asked for San Diego, I got San Diego. I asked for Jacksonville, Florida, I got a destroyer out of Jacksonville. I asked for Virginia, I got Virginia. I asked for Texas, which is where I'm at now, I got Texas. So I have been blessed in duty stations of everywhere I want to go. But then as I had my son 12 years ago, my thyroid failed shortly after. It was an Air Force doctor that walked by my room after 3 years of me suffering, being told there's nothing wrong with me but postpartum depression, that says, you ever heard about a thyroid condition? And I'm like, what's that? And he like, your Adam's apple. I was like, I'm a girl. And he was like, yeah, anyway, your Adam's apple, that area right there. So I was like, okay, what are you trying to say? He say, you're losing your hair, you can't sleep, your eyes are bulging out of your head, you're palpitating, you think you're going crazy, you have a thyroid condition. So they ran the test, they quarantined me off, I got scared, found out I had Graves' disease. I was 80 pounds soaking wet 8 weeks after I had my son, where I went from 125 to 180 my last month of pregnancy, which I carried him 40 weeks and 4 days. He did not want to come out of there. I found myself in formation every morning running at the front of the line with this big old belly, trying to get him out, drinking Orange Crush and drinking salt and vinegar chips for like 3 weeks straight. Dakota did not want to come up out of there. And I was like, hey, I need my body back. So in that stint, I was married to his dad. He was military. I dealt with intimate partner rape, marital rape. I didn't even think that was a thing. Fortunate enough, I didn't see too many other girls that had to go through rape. So I became a sexual assault victim advocate. I said, okay, I got to help somebody. I got to show them, I got to tell them, I got to teach them. So that became one of my resources. I'm multi-ethnic. I always have put other on my applications because my mom and dad has always told me, hey, you're not just African-American. And I said, no, mama, from a young age, I'm not African-American. I had found out, and just looking at our family history books, that I'm Austrian, i.e. Griner. We come from Austria, Germany area. Funny enough to see a lot of y'all have been in Germany. I don't say I'm African-American, I say I'm American African. So I always want one line, every application, I don't care what it is, and I flip it around because I wasn't born in Africa. I was born here in America, but I know I have African roots. And then I also know that I share in the Native American culture. Thanks to Vaughn, I'm about to link in and I'm like, oh, there's other people like me. Why do I always want to do multi-ethnic deals? I love poetry, I love acting, and I play the violin. I love bringing people's gifts together. So then I got that aha moment and I said, oh God, I get it. You boots on ground. You need me to be your resource in here with the civilian things that I learned to teach the others, young and old, to preach the gospel, to let them know that it's okay. I got a thyroid condition, but I ain't dead yet. I'm above ground. And anybody that's going through sexual trauma, hey, I'm here, you can get out of it. Yeah, just because your thyroid sent you to the crazy home, you can get out of it and you can still be here. And yet now, yeah, my pelvic floor has fallen. I have pelvic floor dysfunction, but I smile because I know God has something else great for me. I've been in 14 years, but that ain't been 14 years of agony. Some days I'm like, oh, they getting on my last nerve. But then I look at this panel and I look at other women, because in the Navy, I don't really have a sisterhood. I've always felt like I was alone because I don't have that Army battle buddy. We don't go on the battle. I go on deployment. I go to Dubai. I got a backpack on. I'm shopping. I'm in Greece. I'm swimming in the Dead Sea. My deployments are not stressful. My deployments are vacation heaven. Like, I done seen some beautiful places. The most part of it is crossing that pond, which I stay seasick. But as long as I got me some peppermint and some Dr. Pepper, I survive. But my deployments are nothing. Then I see my other veterans, and then I feel bad when I talk to Griner now. She has PTSD. Well, now she's burns and she has PTSD. And I was like, you know what? I got the skills that I needed here. I live at the resource center getting information for fellow vets and for military members in-house, showing them how to get their benefits. Like I say, I told Vaughn was like, oh, I stay in Dallas. I'm like, oh, I'm in Waco. Next thing I know, like, Vaughn, what's your address? She's my old child. He's like, don't come up here. I like, I pull up on ya. Next thing you know, and I didn't know you like pink, so I got a big old pink teddy bear. And I'm like, here you go. And I'm like, what you need me to help you with? And I was happy. The military has helped me find my sisterhood. I don't have it internally, even though I strive for it, I yearn for it, I beg for it. But since I had a friend, Alonzo Smith, introduced me to Clubhouse, I found y'all. And I'm gonna hold on to y'all. Like, I'm gonna wear y'all out. I'm gonna be your little sister, cousin, grandma sister tomorrow. Don't let the gray streak fool you. I'm there. I'm gonna pull up on you. Cause I got a F-150 and I drive coast to coast. I got a motorcycle, I go coast to coast. I'll roll up on you. So hey, and then on Clubhouse, I'm known as ES. That's my 2 pence. And I dock my boat. Back to you, Vaughn.
And as you can see, she absolutely means that, because there's not a week that goes by that she doesn't offer some type of support to me, and I'm grateful to have met her. Thank you. And you know, I wish that the Air Force had been kinder to you, because it is still the premier branch of all of our armed forces. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So I don't want to be remiss and not give our dear sister here, Miss Susan Mitchell. You see her there in the background, and she's maintaining the buttons for us and following the chat. And as I bring her on to introduce herself, I want you all to go ahead and put your information in the chat. Tell our viewing audience how they can find you, for those that will see this futuristically on Facebook Live, or however Sarah Mitchell decides to share it. It'll be out there. But especially for those of you with organizations and you're doing some background work and you would like to have your contact information shared, please do so now. And Miss Sarah, if you'll come on and introduce yourself, we appreciate you supporting us. And then I'll just tell you all, she's fighting on a whole different battlefield, but such a warrior within her own rights in what she does for the community. Go ahead, Miss Sarah.
No, these were really inspiring, and I'm so proud to be here with y'all and be able to help on the technology front. And yes, please put the information in the chat. I'll make sure it gets in the YouTube description when I help Vaughn upload it. But yeah, no, it is amazing to be able to look at this group of women and see people who didn't push down, they pulled up. They made sure that they looked around at, you know, who else was there and said, hey, I'm going to turn pain into purpose. You know, I didn't choose what happened to me. I am going to choose what I do about it and how I help others. So seriously, thank you, every single one of you. So yes, my name is Sarah Mitchell, and I am the founder and executive director of ELF Army of Light. It is a non-religious resource center for the pregnancy, loss, and infant death community. So we provide a lot of community in that manner, where it's like, regardless of religion, culture, background, we're all women in pain. So, you know, let's actually listen and help each other out, and not only say like, hey, you know, nurses, bereavement nurses, here's what we need and what, you know, we need to make sure that this community gets, and, you know, how to overcome a lot of the medical bias. Because like we talked about last week, unfortunately, women of color, especially Black women, are the ones that have the highest rate. And it's because often they're not listened to. Like, it's hard enough being a woman, but to be a woman of color on the medical front is sometimes just an exercise in frustration. So to be able to actually, you know, hold hands together and be able to say like, hey, this is what we can actually change, and this is what we can do, and this is how we can really make a difference from this moment forward, is really powerful. And, you know, during COVID, unfortunately, you know, when my daughter was born, and it was the day after we found out that she died. I had the ability to have my family there, for closure. But once COVID hit, these families weren't able to be together and have that closure. So once that happened, and once we knew that, on top of the emotional, like, I feel alone, they were literally alone, we actually created comfort boxes to be able to deliver to them. And my nurse, when she delivered my daughter, said, "I can't make this easier. I can bring you comfort while you're here." And that's what we try to do to these families, is to say, again, just like y'all are doing with your communities, like, I can't make this easier. I can let you know that I'm here and that you're not alone. And that is just the biggest thing, whether, your trauma is military service or sexual assault or pregnancy, loss, and infant death, like, just knowing you're not alone and you do not have to go through it without someone right beside you. I mean, it's amazing. It's a weight off of your shoulders to just know that, we can take one step at a time and we can do it together. So thank every single one of you for doing what you're doing and just being who you are.
I appreciate you so much, Sarah. And I'm going to give each and every one of you last words to share with our audience. Anything you want to say to encourage someone, to give a word of warning, whatever is on your heart after listening to each other and supporting each other. What is something lasting that you want to leave this community with? And of course, I'm going to start with Miss Linda Ford. You're on mute, Miss Linda. See if I can unmute you. There you go.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am.
Yeah. As I was listening to the panel, I kind of said that it's never too late. I have a motto that I live by, and I always say, don't look back and say, if something you want to do, you shouldn't. You didn't do it, but you could have. So I was listening to Althea. I was listening to ES. I mean, these ladies, had the desire to go into the military. Me, I didn't, but I ended up there. But I mean, it's like it was eating at them, the things that it kept coming back to them. So I always say, do it so you don't look back and say, I should have done it, but somebody stopped me, So, as God is your strength, as God is your healer, because I know that through my military term of service, and I heard a lot of you guys recognize and honor God, but as I stated, desires of my heart, I did get the desires of my heart fulfilled. Germany, Fort Ord, California, and then back home, because of the fact that God was first and foremost in my life. And so I just want to say that you all are amazing women, and I am proud to be among the company. And yes, you're an amazing young lady, you know that.
Yes.
So thank you all. Thank you all.
Very much appreciative of you, Miss Linda. Oh,
Thank
Mitchelene.
I just want to thank all of you for this time, especially Vaughn for asking me to be part of this great panel. As a young Native American woman and girl, leaving the reservation, joining the military was hard. But one thing I always kind of pass on is that teacup story, where a teacup, because we're all vessels of God, but when you're making the teacup, it's going through a lot of the heat and the beating and the molding. And at the end of it, when God is finished with you, this beautiful teacup with all his glorious colors and all his strong power, and each and every one of you, your stories, I mean, it just was so warming, and at the same time, it just shows so much strength and power. And Rose, you are like my right-hand person. And I really thank God for bringing all of you into my life, but Rose, more than anything, God has really blessed me with you. So ladies, remember, we're all teacups because God is not finished with us.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rose?
Hi, everyone. Again, everyone, you are absolutely amazing. I mean, I am holding out the tears. I feel very encouraged and inspired by all of you. My husband is a pastor, and I've been a pastor's wife for 5 or 6 years now, since we've been together, 7 years. And we worked with youth, we work with women, we work with broken couples, we work with people that were contemplating suicide, leaving their churches, and just questioning God. And just for all of us and what we walk through, God has always had a purpose for every single one of us. And we live in seasons. You know, we're talking about our season of service and our season of service with God. It's now, you know, right now I am going to come upon 40 years old, and I always think of things in increments of 10 or 15 years, and certainly not the same person I was when I was 20. I could endure a lot more. But now I am in the season of sharing and planting seeds, whether it's for our children or our younger generation. And I just encourage all of you and anybody that's listening is to be okay with the season you're in. You know, God planted you in that season that you're in right now, and he's brought wisdom from your experience. He's brought the hurt, the pain, the trials, and even Chelsie, just what you're talking about. God's brought you through it, and he is going to get you the message to get it through you. We always believe that if God can bring us through it, he's going to get it through you. The blessing of you reaching people and lifting them up and bringing them hope. And this is why I love you, Vaughn. I don't even know you. It's the first time I met, but everything that you do is circled around hope. And, you know, this is just inspiring what you've done and how you've brought so many people together to just keep encouraging others. It's just so beautiful how God's using you. And all of you ladies, I look forward to meeting and getting to know you more. Thank you.
And we shall meet soon. I'm right up the road from Mitchelene right now. I'm thinking of taking that drive over to Tampa. Okay, Althea.
Hello again. Oh my goodness, I feel like we could pack up now. You said, oh my goodness. I just want to add and kind of caveat to what everyone is saying, and is that we were created for a purpose. And I'll just share real quick. I was going to this program where it was to work on PTSD. And I had a dream the night before it was going to start. And God showed me a picture of, in a dream, kintsugi, you know, the pottery where it's broken and it's laced with gold. And I woke up 1 o'clock in the morning and I was like, okay, I saw that. And I was like, I remember what that was. And I looked it up. And what God put in my spirit was that we are better sometimes broken, and when he restores us, than we were original. So even in our brokenness, we are more beautiful and more valuable now to the people that are around us, so that we're able to help and be a light to those that are within our sphere of influence. So I just wanted to share that. It's kind of, I just say, trust that everything that we go through, the dark times, the good times, all of those things, not one thing goes unused. God will use every single thing in our life. And I know you can look back and you're like, oh my gosh, everything that I went through prepared me for this. Even when you lost a job, or when the marriage broke, when you broke up with that person or whatever. So just know that even when I lost the job during the recession, it led me to the military. That led me to be able to be amongst you beautiful people. So everything works together for the good of those that love him. So I'm going to leave with that, and you all be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you. I receive all of that. Chelsie?
Thank you all for being here. And the the verse that's been on my heart this week has been iron sharpens iron, and to just see and be around. I mean, I know we're not physically together, but energy doesn't know time and distance. It's like we're all right here and we are connected in that spirit, and we share that sisterhood in the military, but also in Christ. And it's exciting because when God moves and brings people together and grows us through each other, I don't know what's going to happen on the other side of this, but I know it's good because, yeah, Romans 8:28, all things work together for good for those that are called according to his purpose. And just, wow, thank you all for being here. And final words, I mean, seasons of life, it was mentioned, and being grateful. This season of life, I was learning to dance in the storm, sing praises when I was feeling my worst. And those gems I get to take with me walking out of that really, really harsh season into, I mean, I feel like the promised land, right? And it's by showing up and answering and saying, yes, Lord. So wherever anyone's at in their journey, it's not permanent, you know, the goods and the bads, and that we can take those seasons and grow from them and be the waters and be the pruners and be the seed planters for God. And I really do honor each and every one of your paths, and I'm thankful to have crossed paths, and that anybody that's watching this, wherever you're at, like it changes. And if you're not in a good spot, like reach out for support. It is the hardest thing to do. But my 4 words that kind of really got me through were vulnerability. So being able to talk about what was really going on, accountability, my peace and what got me there, right? And then gratitude for all the guidance, love, wisdom, protection, people, provision, and praise. Just praise for what a mighty God that is in charge of it all, and he has us all in his hand. I mean, down to the minuscule things, but even to the big, great things that are really oppressing our world that we are living in. And I'm just honored to be alongside of you all. Thank you. Namaste.
Wow. EB'ony.
Well, Von, you know I always got to shake it up a little bit. You know I always got to remix cadence. So I'm going to hit you real quick because I just feel like we need it. So for you all who have retired, as me and Von say, the new word or someone said is rewirement. It is that. But, you know, I like cadence and I like shaking things up and I like remixing. So here y'all go. And I think we got majority army in here. So here go a little bit. Your mama was there when you left. You're right. Your sister was there when you left. You're right. Your daddy was there when you left. You're right. Your brother was there when you left. You're right. And that's the reason you left. You're right. We left our homes for the armed force. We left our homes for the armed force. We left our homes for community. We left our homes for justice. We left our homes for justice. We left our homes for liberty. You'll leave your homes for justice. You'll leave your homes for community. You'll leave your homes. You'll leave your homes. You'll leave your homes for liberty. We left our homes for the armed force. Remember to keep healing and hoping and hoping and healing. And happy Women's History Month, y'all.